Okay, thought I'd do a 2022 beginning of the season update on the van. Got everything all opened up. She fired right up. I put the battery on a trickle charger for a couple of days in advance, but other than that, no issues. Have some mods and some maintenance planned, but other than that, topped off the fluids. We'll likely do a oil change soon. But we're only 2,000 miles in on the last change, and she's running great, but always stuff to do. So last season did the cool little fog lampies here, which are still hooked up to the horn, so when you beep the horn, these flash. Got the LED housings in here. They work really great. A lot of the lights are LEDs because I think like the turn signals and whatnot, they were really weak, and want people to know when we're making a turn. Repaired the door lock mechanisms on both sides. They were kind of squiffy. One of them had a broken rod in it, so that was a little bit of a job. Horn functions again. It's using a button from somewhere else, but it's rigged up, got some wiring under here for that system, so it's run on its own system separately. Everything's working. The speedometer works, and sometimes it's absolutely perfect, other times it waggles heavily. I think the length of the cable, it's never quite right, but I've tried to shorten them, and they come unwound if you're not careful. Seat cover. This is my little MP3 controller. And then down here we got a big Bluetooth battery operated system. The backup camera was a new addition, and that is hooked to this light, which was originally the backup light, or actually it might have been the interior light, but anyway, I have the reverse lights and the camera all hooked to this, so when I back up, because the transmission switch wasn't working great, this will turn on the backup camera, which takes maybe 3 seconds to boot up, and turns the backup lights on. Other than that, got a mini tack here, which is great. I love the lower numbers only going to 6,000. You get a lot of these tacks that are meant for other vehicles, and they go to 8 or 10,000, and if you're above 3 in this and on any frequency, that's abnormal. Dog bed, Penny's favorite spot. Got the 3-point harnesses. Still have some finishing work to do here. I had to take some of the panels off. Intend to put those back in. I'm using very heavy gauge bolts and whatnot, but the way this is rigged up is not great. I mean, it's strong, it's safe, everything's bolted into steel or metal. Again, these seats are aftermarket. The guy literally just took steel plate and made a system rather than making braces or a frame for it. So it works, but not the cleanest, most professional job. Doors are working much better. Just had to wiggle these a little bit so that they would close better. And here, this is just skateboard tape with a night reflective strip. Could have done better setup with that, but honestly it is life-changing, because if you get any moisture down here when you step onto the van, your foot just slips out, and I've done a couple of times where you just do either want to fall in or fall out of the van. So not much here. Exhaust systems been redone. Happy with the sound. I'll fire that up at the end, but I'm going to keep this to more in so the aesthetics and interior than mechanical. Got the seat flipped around. I'm carrying a spare tire right now, because again, a full-size spare, because it's tough to get 14s in most places. I honestly think I'll probably replace all the tires at some point because they are a mismatched pair. Nice 6-ton bottle jack just in case. Again, for people who don't watch the first video, he's got rebar coming up and through a mounting system. So these are all like 90s Dodge seats out of a Grand Caravan, I believe. And then he's got the rail system up front. This is really nice because obviously you can flip it around. And so we back up to the beach and put the dog right here and, you know, have a meal. Finally got the third light hooked up and rigged up to the modified switching. Only thing is there's no mounting point, so it's got heavy gauge wire, and that's kind of keeping it up. We'll have to work on something. I did something with like double-sided tape to try to keep it in place, but I really kind of don't want to puncture the liner, so I'll probably make some sort of bracket that comes off there, try to pretty it up. I could shorten the wire, but yeah, big pain in the ass to lengthen it after the fact. I did the backup camera here, so that's really helpful. It's shaded, it's at a good spot. Really helps with just parking lot stuff because, you know, it's not a big vehicle technically, it just feels that way. Again, mismatched tires. All this stuff is working. Windows are working. Other thing that I have going, we have a system that latches in between the two seat belts, which is why we technically have these, which are aftermarket, which I put in, and again using, you know, grade 8, you know, carriage bolts and whatnot into the seats in existing mounting spots. You can see, if you can see it down here. But we kept these because this is where the dog's safety harness. Let me pop this for a second. Oh, tire's in the way. All right, tip number 2. We got like a dog safety harness, and I'll actually pop this in. Goes in there, clicks in, and then you can run another cable from there up to the front, and that works pretty well. Again, just for the sake of if you have to come to a quick stop, the dog isn't smacking against the window or anything like that. You know, in a real crash, nobody's surviving anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Here's the rail system again. Yeah, so he cut and welded in the removable rail. So all the seats come out, and the rails that he installed in the back and the front actually worked out really great for transporting motorcycles, because it gave me great tie-down points that obviously didn't exist preemptively. Got some gasket work done, you know, that I've stuffed in some of the leaky areas. The doghouse is sealed. Got some wiring in here. Here's the some of the 3-point systems, so they are retractable. There's a switch right here which does, oh yeah, there we go. Does all the lights at once from this spot, so you can do that, or you can turn it on from up front. There's a little switch on the console that they put in, so that's nice. Again, you can see some of the fab work that was done. Big steel plates, bunch of huge bolts, stuff going into the wheel well, which again, probably not the best way to do a lot of it, or the most correct way, but you know, honestly, it works. And again, if you're worrying about survivability mods in the event of a decent sized crash, these are not the vehicles to buy. This door gave me hell, just trying to get the mechanism, you know, I could get it to lock but unlock, because you really need stiff rods so that when you turn the key, it pushes up and knocks the popper loose or whatever. So heating system works very well. Got the vents and all that in here, fresh air vents, stuff like that. All that works well. Got this little fan that we will mount up for when the dog is here and we want like a little extra breeze, but you know, in general, not needed. Got this voltage port here, so this cuts it entirely, so it's cut out of the circuit, so it's not running. And you have the option to, you know, charge phones and whatnot, which, you know, again, not exactly period correct to have USB ports and whatnot, but at the end of the day, if you actually want to go distances and you don't want to have to carry huge batteries everywhere, that's the way to go. And then I actually have, for the guests, connected a extended cigarette lighter port and, you know, charger and stuff like that. So yeah, that's the overview of where we're at mechanically. Everything's working well. Things need to be watched. Sometimes doesn't like waking up when it's colder necessarily. It does do the thing where after it sits, after it's been run for a while, I have the fuel system set up where I replaced all the lines with rubber, get anywhere near the engine, so that helps with cooling or keeping the fuel lines clean or clear. But you can get a different, not vapor lock, but essentially eventually once the car sits, the gas will boil a little bit, push it back into the gas tank. So I put some check valves in it, which seem to help a bit with the amount of time you have to crank to get the van going. But you know, still you'll need at least a couple of turns before fuel, you know, gets back into the bowl and whatnot. There's not really a whole lot you can do given it's a mechanical fuel pump unless you want to convert to electric. And probably the easiest thing to do if you don't want to get rid of your mechanical fuel pump is you could rig up a small electric fuel pump by the tank to basically just pre-feed or prime the tank or prime the carburetor. So, you know, you turn that on for a couple of seconds before you turn the key, get the lines all full again, and then let the mechanical do its work. But, you know, ever since I put the check valves in, it hasn't been an issue where it hasn't fired up in a couple of seconds. When we were in Maine and it was really cooking off all the fuel, you know, it was kind of embarrassing how long it would take cranking over before it would catch. But in general, it's pretty great now. Let's have to do something with this. When the seat is turned around the other way, this tire sits here perfectly, and the back of the seat actually holds it in place, so it's a nice place for a spare. Right now, not so much. So we'll figure out something. Could just put it to pull these seats up a little bit. They do recline almost totally flat, and they slide back and forth. This is basically all the way back from the front. So that's pretty much it. She's in great shape. Let's do a roof check. I haven't been up here in a bit. Roof's in good shape. There's a couple of spots where rot is doing its thing. Not up here, thankfully, but on the side sill, there's like one spot that's troublesome or bothersome. But yeah, did 6,000 miles last year, but quite a bit of that was, or you know, I think 2,000 of it, or 1,500 was the trip from Winter Haven, Florida, down to Key West, and then all the way back to Rhode Island. So probably not getting the same mileage this year, but we'll see. And it's been cool being able to use the ramps, roll a motorcycle in here, and maybe we'll take that up north or something like that. Since my wife's appetite for being on the back of a motorcycle for hours is limited. So hope this was helpful. Most important mod, the Roadrunner horn. And I'll do a mechanical overview and probably do a video of a carburetor swap, because I got a Chinese knockoff and I want to give it a try because I still have issues. Yeah, just getting it to run perfectly all the time. All right, have a good one.